The first Thanks for Russia week has drawn to a close. I deliberately say the first, because it will not be the last. This week was the beginning of a great drive in tank production, from which, in accordance with the arrangements between our two governments, my country will benefit very considerably. I have just been informed that the production of the present week will be no less than 10% greater than the record set up only last week. In this connection, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all those who have contributed to the making of tanks this week and who will contribute in the weeks and months to come. I would like to do this not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of the entire Soviet people, and more particularly on behalf of the brave Red Army men who will use the British tanks on the battlefield. You may perhaps ask, why the Soviet Union needs tanks from Britain? I will attempt to answer these questions in a very few words. It is true that my country has its own well-developed tank industry. Before the war, it fully supplied our requirements. This is borne out by the number and quality of mechanized troops who were and are fighting today against the German invader. But after more than 3 months of war, the situation in many respects has been changed. In the first place, the wreckage of tanks and the gigantic 2,000-mile front is very great. The German losses in tanks in the Eastern campaign are enormous. Our losses are smaller, but also serious. You cannot replace such losses from the normal monthly output even under normal conditions. But here I come to the second point. The circumstances were and are very abnormal. In accordance with the scorched earth policy proclaimed by Monsieur Stalin, a number of important plants were dynamited by us to prevent them falling into the enemy's hands. A great number have been evacuated from the danger zones, and a certain time must elapse before they can restart their activities on the new sites. Consequently, our productive capacity in tanks has not kept pace with the growing requirements of the war. To fill the gap, we need the cooperation of other freedom-loving countries, and in the first place of Great Britain and the United States. This is the reason why arrangements were made between our two governments for British tanks to be supplied to the Soviet armies. This is the reason why British factories are now engaged at such high pressure in turning out tanks for my country. The arrangements are plain common sense. It is no use living in a fool's paradise. We have to face facts as they are. My country and yours are fighting now an exceptionally reckless and powerful enemy. Under these circumstances, a close military collaboration between us is a prime necessity. We have to think of this war in terms of a united common front. According to the fortunes of war, the forces and resources of the Allies must be shifted from one sector to another as the military situation demands. With this in mind, all available help and assistance at the present time should go to the Eastern Front. The entire Soviet people, men, women, and even children, are fighting not only for themselves, for their own fatherland, but also for the freedom and security of other nations. Here in the East, for more than 3 months, the greatest battle mankind has ever seen has been raging. And the outcome of this great battle of the East, the whole issue of the war depends. Surely then, the more tanks Britain is able to send now to the Soviet Union, the better. I hope that the high level of production reached this week will be further maintained and even improved upon. The slogan of the day must be tanks, more tanks, and yet more tanks.
You have been listening to Mr. Maisky, the Soviet ambassador.